Part 1. Why people over 70 feel invisible and how to reclaim your voice. Have you ever walked into a room and felt like no one noticed? Like somehow, with the passing of years, you've slowly become less seen, less heard, and maybe even less valued? You're not alone. This isn't your imagination, and it's not your fault. Many people over 70 experience something they never expected, a quiet kind of invisibility, not because they've changed, but because the world around them has stopped paying attention. Today, we're going to talk about that feeling, where it comes from, why it hurts so deeply, and most importantly, how to reclaim your voice, your worth, and your place in the world. So grab a cup of tea, get comfortable, and stay with me until the end. You might hear something that brings you peace, clarity, or even hope. I just felt invisible. Margaret, a retired teacher from Ohio, shared something with us that might sound familiar. She said, "I used to walk into school and everyone would greet me. My students lit up when I entered the room. After I retired, it was like the world turned down the volume on me. Even my grown kids talk over me now. I don't think they mean to, but I feel like wallpaper, just part of the background." It's not just Margaret. AARP studies have shown that 1 in 3 adults over 70 report feeling overlooked or dismissed in everyday situations. Cashiers speak to their caregivers instead of them. Doctors explain things to their adult children, not them. Strangers cut in front of them in line. And in media? Well, if you've ever noticed how few shows, ads, or stories reflect people in your age group, you know what we're talking about. Why does this happen? Let's break down 3 key reasons many people over 70 begin to feel invisible, and how these forces quietly shape our experience. 1. Cultural bias toward youth. We live in a world that celebrates new, fast, and young. From social media to commercials, the message is clear: younger is better. But here's the truth no one says out loud. Aging is not the opposite of living. It's the proof that you have. Still, the constant messaging makes it hard to feel relevant when tech products assume you're not the user. TV shows rarely feature people your age and strong, leading roles. Even doctors sometimes talk to you like you're a child. This isn't just annoying, it's damaging. When the world treats you like you don't matter, it chips away at your sense of identity. And over time, you might begin to question your own value. But let me remind you of something important. Your voice matters. Your story matters. And the world needs your perspective, now more than ever. 2. Retirement can shrink our social world. Remember when you worked, volunteered, or parented full-time? You had people counting on you, calling you, including you. But when retirement hits, suddenly, those daily interactions disappear. The phone rings less. The invitations slow down. And your circle, it starts to shrink. Not because you're less lovable or interesting, but because modern life doesn't always make space for elders the way it used to. In many cultures, elders are the heartbeat of the family, the keepers of wisdom. But in Western society, the focus often shifts to speed, novelty, and independence. That leaves many seniors feeling socially sidelined. Even when family is nearby, their busy lives mean fewer check-ins, shorter conversations, and less meaningful time together. The result? You start to feel like a background character in your own life. But that's not the end of the story, because there are ways, powerful, real ways, to rebuild those connections, to show up boldly, to speak up and be seen. We'll talk about those in just a moment. 3. Internalized invisibility, the most dangerous kind. Here's the part most people miss. After a while, when you're treated like you don't matter, you start to believe it. You stop offering your opinion. You downplay your needs. You let others talk over you or make choices for you because it just seems easier. This is what psychologists call internalized ageism, when society's messages about aging start to live inside us. And it's dangerous because it doesn't just affect how others see us. It affects how we see ourselves. One woman told us, "I caught myself apologizing to a waiter for asking for more water. Like I was being a burden just by speaking up. I never used to be that way." Let that sink in. This is why reclaiming your voice matters so much. Not just for others to hear you, but for you to hear yourself again. Because the moment you remember who you are, the world starts to take notice. 2. A gentle truth. You don't have to be loud to be heard. You don't have to be young to be seen. And you don't have to be perfect to be powerful. Sometimes, reclaiming your voice starts with something small. Sharing your opinion, even when no one asks. Wearing the bright scarf because you want to. Calling a friend just to talk, not to wait for them to call first. Writing down your memories, not because you're fading, but because they're worth remembering. This isn't about fighting age. It's about honoring it. So let's keep going. What comes next might surprise you. In part 2, we'll dive into how you can start reclaiming your voice in real, practical ways, at home, with family, and in your community. And we'll look at some powerful stories of people who did just that and changed everything. Are you ready? Let's move forward together. Part 2, Reclaiming Visibility, Small Actions, Big Power. In part 1, we explored how cultural bias, shrinking social circles, and internalized ageism can make many people over 70 feel invisible. But now, it's time to turn that around. Because while the world might try to quiet your voice, you still get to choose how loud you sing. And reclaiming your visibility doesn't mean changing who you are. It means owning who you've always been, but with confidence, clarity, and a little boldness. Let's talk about how to do that, starting with something simple but life-changing. 1. Speak up, even when it feels uncomfortable. Here's something you might not hear often. You don't have to earn the right to be heard. Yet so many older adults hesitate to voice their needs, preferences, or ideas, especially around younger people. Maybe you've said, "I don't want to be a burden. It's not my place anymore. They probably know better than me." But think about this. Would you want your grandchild to feel like that at 70? You've lived through wars, raised families, built careers, overcome loss. Your voice is backed by decades of experience and wisdom, and it deserves space in every room you enter. So next time, tell the nurse how you're really feeling. Not just what you think she wants to hear. Share your idea at the community meeting, even if it feels too modern. Ask questions at the doctor's office until you understand. Fully, you don't need permission. You need practice. And every time you speak up, you teach the people around you how to listen. 2. Rebuild your social identity. Here's a truth that hits many people hard. Retirement doesn't just change your schedule. It can change your identity. For 40 plus years, you were the teacher, the manager, the mom, the go-to guy, and then, in a blink, you're just retired. But you are never just anything. You are still curious, creative, necessary, evolving. So it's time to rebuild a new identity, not based on what you do, but on who you are becoming. One man we spoke to, Walter, started a local gardening club at 76. He said, "I wasn't sure anyone would come. Now we've got 19 members, and I haven't felt this useful in years." Another woman, Dina, began writing short stories online. People around the world read my work. "I've made friends in places I'll never visit, but I feel seen again," she told us. You don't have to go viral or start a nonprofit. Sometimes just showing up where people gather and being yourself is enough to start reclaiming your visibility. So ask yourself, what do I still want to create? Who do I want to connect with? What makes me feel most alive? Then take one tiny step in that direction. 3, claim physical space. Don't shrink yourself. This next point is something most people never hear about, but it could completely change how you feel. How you carry your body affects how others treat you. It's true. Research in body language shows that when people sit tall, walk confidently, and make eye contact, they're perceived as more competent, interesting, and worth listening to. Now, we're not saying posture alone solves everything, but ask yourself, do I avoid eye contact in public? Do I slouch or try not to be in the way? Do I speak softly even when I have something to say? These are signs of self-minimization, a subtle way we tell the world, don't notice me. But what if, starting tomorrow, you tried something new? Vocalito el taller. Make eye contact with a barista. Take up space at the family dinner. Wear that outfit you love, even if it's too bright or too bold. Visibility isn't just about voice. It's about presence. When you show the world that you belong, you're reminded that you're here to stay. 4. Interrupt ageist assumptions, even the subtle ones. Here's something no one likes to admit. Ageism isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a whisper. It sounds like, you probably don't want to bother with all that tech stuff. Let's not stress grandpa with this decision. You're so cute for your age. Even well-meaning people can say dismissive things, and they often don't realize it. So what can you do? Interrupt the moment with kindness and clarity. For example, actually, I use my tablet every day. Want to show you how I organize my photos? I'd like to be part of the decision. If that's okay, I have some thoughts. Thank you, but I'd rather be called strong than cute. You don't need to start a fight. Just start correction. Because every time you challenge a stereotype, you change the narrative, not just for you, but for every person in your generation. 5. Create your own spotlight. Still feel like you're fading into the background? Then maybe it's time to build your own stage. We're not talking about Broadway or TED Talks. We're talking about writing letters to the editor, starting a small podcast for your grandkids, reading poetry at open mic nights, sharing your story in a local newsletter, hosting a tea gathering with discussion topics you care about. These things might seem small, but they create ripples. You become a voice, a presence, a spark, reminding others and yourself that age doesn't dim the light. If anything, it deepens it. As one 82-year-old woman told us, I decided to stop waiting for the world to notice me. I'd notice myself first. Everything else followed. Let's pause here. By now, you've learned how silence can take over and how speaking up starts a healing, why identity matters after retirement, how presence, posture, and self-expression shape how you're treated, that you have the power to challenge outdated ideas, and that you can create your own space to shine. But there's one more piece of this story, and it's the most powerful of all. In part 3, we'll explore how reclaiming your voice can ripple outward, changing family, communities, and even the world. We'll also talk about legacy, self-worth, and what it means to be fully alive after 70. Now that we've come this far, let's go even deeper. Part 3, the power of being seen and seeing yourself again. If you've come this far, something in you is still reaching, still curious, still hungry to be seen, not just by others, but by yourself. That's not weakness. That's aliveness. So now, let's explore how you can turn that quiet strength into something even greater. Something that not only reclaims your voice, but ripples outward to touch your family, your community, and even the next generation. Because being visible again isn't just a gift to you. It's a beacon for everyone watching you. 1. Visibility is a form of legacy. Think about the stories your parents or grandparents left you. Maybe it was a recipe, a song, or a phrase you still repeat. Maybe it was the way they stood tall, even when life tried to bend them. Now ask yourself, what do you want to leave behind? Not money, not things, but energy, presence, memory. When you let yourself be visible, when you speak up, dress boldly, laugh loudly, or dance when no one expects it, you are telling people around you, this is what being 70, 80, or 90 can look like. You become a living answer to the question, can I still matter when I'm older? Yes, and you do. So if you've been quiet, it's okay. But don't stay quiet forever, because your story is your legacy, and it's not done being written. 2, change the conversation at home. Here's a secret. Sometimes the hardest place to reclaim your voice is inside your own family. They love you, yes, but love doesn't always equal listening. Maybe your adult children talk over you. Maybe your grandkids roll their eyes when you offer advice. Maybe you feel like everyone assumes they know better than you. It hurts. But here's the truth. People will treat you how you train them to. That doesn't mean it's your fault, but it does mean you can retrain them. Here's how. Ask for space to finish your thoughts, gently but firmly. Say, I'd like to be part of this decision. My experience might help. Share your feelings without blaming. Try, I feel left out sometimes, and I miss being part of things. Start telling stories they haven't heard before, real, raw, human ones. One woman told her grandson about the time she almost didn't make it through childbirth, and his entire view of her changed. Another man taught his great-granddaughter how to play chess, and suddenly, he became her hero. People need to see you as a full person, not just a role. And sometimes, the only way to do that is to show them. 3, community begins with courage. Maybe your family isn't around. Maybe you live alone. Maybe there are days when silence stretches longer than it should. You're not the only one. But here's the good news. Connection doesn't have to wait for someone else to reach out. Sometimes, the greatest act of visibility is starting something. You can invite a neighbor over for coffee, start a weekly memory circle where people share stories from their youth, volunteer not just to help, but to belong, post a message on a community board offering to teach something you know. One man in Arizona started a men over 70 walking group. Now they meet every Tuesday at sunrise, and it's the highlight of his week. Connection is a muscle. It starts weak, but the more you use it, the stronger it gets. And when you show up, others feel permission to show up too. 4, see yourself the way you want to be seen. This might be the most healing truth of all. Visibility doesn't start out there. It starts in here. You teach the world how to see you by how you see yourself. If you speak with apology, the world will assume you have something to apologize for. If you downplay your wisdom, the world will think you have none. If you hide your light, people will walk past you, never knowing how brightly you could have shone. But what if today you chose a different story? What if you said, I have nothing to prove, but so much still to offer. My age is not a weakness. It's a superpower. I may move slower, but I carry more than most can imagine. Start there, every morning, with that mirror, that reflection, and then go out into the world like you own the sky. Because the truth is, you do. 5, from invisible to irreplaceable. Let me leave you with one last story. A woman named Gloria, 84, told us this. For years, I felt like I was just waiting to be done, like I had become an extra in my own life. Then one day, I realized, if I'm still here, I must still have a part to play. So she started calling old friends. She read books again. She wore red lipstick to the grocery store. She offered advice, shared memories, asked questions. She came back to life. Her granddaughter later said, she became our fire again. That's what happens when someone reclaims their voice. They don't just become visible, they become irreplaceable. Final words to you from me. If you've ever felt invisible, I see you. If you've ever stayed quiet to keep the peace, I hear you. If you've ever wondered if you still matter, I'm here to say, you absolutely do. You are not too late. You are not too old. You are not done. So go out there, speak your truth, hold your head high, and let the world remember what it forgot. That age doesn't erase value. It reveals it. You are still here, still whole, still worthy. And your voice, it's still yours. Use it.